Welcome to the HawkCast with your host, AJ Hawk.
Dylan Curran. So Dylan, what's your life been like the last month? For people that don't know, can you explain kind of these string of tweets you had that went viral?
Yeah, so I was really hungover one Saturday morning and just went on Twitter. I found this thread which is really, really similar to mine, but I didn't go into such a deep aspect. So it was mostly covering that Facebook was collecting text messages and phone records. So that's external to Facebook. So they're collecting just, if you call someone on your phone, they were collecting that, not a Facebook call, a normal call. So after I saw that, it had like 50,000 retweets and people were completely shocked. And I saw their shock and I was like, oh, guys, you don't know the half of it. So I went into the archives, just collected everything, went through it for around 5 to 6 hours, and then just published it online in like a big essay kind of format. And what it basically covered was that Facebook and Google were collecting swaths and just ridiculous amounts of information. So this would cover, say, for instance, Facebook would collect all your messages, statuses, etc. Kind of the typical stuff you expect, although it does keep deleted messages. So if you delete a Facebook message or status, it still keeps it. Then your photos, your videos, your audio messages, your video messages, your video calls, phone records, texts, phone records, messages, calls, contacts, I'll just turn off. I'll go off Facebook because that goes on for too long. And then Google collects all the files and images you've ever downloaded, your location every time you turn on your phone, Google Fit, Google Photos, it stores your images and then metadata with when and where you took the picture. And then it stores your browsing history. It stores your Google Incognito history. So if you're using Google Incognito, it says it's not collecting your information. So if you're watching,
what exactly is Google Incognito?
So Google Incognito it's called private browsing. So it's when you go watch porn, that's the only reason people use it. When you go watch porn and then it doesn't keep that information locally. So it's say you went to the Pornhub and then it would not keep it locally. So you wouldn't have to clear the history. So say what I'll always say to people to kind of make them understand is your wife can't see what you're looking at, but Google can. Like that's kind of how it works. And that's very disturbing because they actually say when you're on Google Incognito that they're not storing the information. But what it says, and very exact, is that your PC does not store the information. So your computer is not keeping the information, but still on your Google account. So if you're looking at porn or whatever, then it's still in your Google My Activity. Then it does a couple of other things, like it stores all your Google Calendar events, all your emails, all the steps you take. It's all in that kind of vein. It basically just keeps everything.
I'm kind of torn on all of this. When I saw everything hit with you a couple of weeks back, I guess your tweets went viral, and then I want to read actually Edward Snowden. Have you talked to Edward Snowden personally?
No, I was speaking with the ACLU, so I was talking to his lawyer, but not him personally.
Well, I'm sure you've seen this, but for people that hadn't seen it, I know in one of the articles after you post these tweets, he said Edward Snowden, the famed NSA leaker, whatever. I don't know what his title would be now.
He's whistleblower. He's whistleblower extraordinaire.
King whistleblower. He's the top dog for whistleblowers.
He's the emperor.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But he said what you put on Twitter there, it was an exquisite breakdown using real life examples of how Facebook and Google exploited your trust to quietly create a decade-long dossier of your most private activities with a bonus, how to download a copy of your own. That's how he describes what you put out there. Is that I'm torn because I feel like I know everything that I put into a text and email. I assume for some reason, if someone wants to use that against me or I commit a crime, they can come back and get that. So are people not even aware of that?
No. Well, not on a broad scale. So I feel like if you might be using technology a little bit more than the average person, so you might be going into more extreme detail, or you might have like a level of self-awareness that a lot of people don't have. But like the vast majority of people don't actually know this. So the average like mother and father who are just got their phone, they're on Facebook and Twitter, they don't get this. They don't understand the level. And then also like even for people who are very much into technology or even just into social media in general, they might understand a general scope. So they might be like, okay, they're taking some of my information, whatever, that's fine. I get to use it for free. That's cool. But they don't understand the depth to which it goes. So for instance, no one knew that Google was collecting their information every time you turn on your phone. So if you swipe up on your phone to see a notification, Google logs your location, where you are, what you're doing, what time. So every time you turn on your phone, they're logging that. And no one knows that. They might know that if they look up a Google Maps destination, then they'd be like, oh, okay, they might keep that. Not that every time they turn on their phone, it's logged. So it's not that people aren't aware that it might be generally going on. They just don't know the nitty gritty of it.
Now, is this, who is you, or I guess who implements that? Who started that? Didn't this all, I would imagine Google and Facebook, they say, well, yeah, this is used to build an advertising profile on each person so we can directly advertise to each individual. Is that their excuse?
I wouldn't say it's their excuse. I would say that's their sole purpose as a company. So like, for instance, Google has 90% of its revenue comes from digital advertising. So like that's how much that's a multi-billion-dollar company, and most of that comes from advertising. And Facebook has 98% of its revenue comes from digital advertising. So like this is literally the only purpose of the company. It's why they offer all these cool services for free. It's just to get your information. Now, that's why I never go into too much conspiracy theory in general, is because like they're just operating as companies. Like they're just doing what they do, and that's collect information and sell it to advertising. This is their sole purpose as a company, is to get your information, and they'll do that in the most creative, most user-friendly ways. So like these services are fantastic. It's just, their only purpose really is to get information. So there's no other real reason for them doing it. That's the only reason.
But since they have this information, I guess what worries people is that the government, whoever, could come to them and ask them for this info, can't they?
Yeah, so Google complies with, on average, 500 to 1,000 subpoenas every 6 months, so around 2,000 every year. And the subpoena is essentially when the government goes to Google or Facebook and says, hey, we want information on this guy, and then the companies legally have to give it. So there's no like fighting it. They have to. There was a really public case about it with Apple and the iPhone, maybe like, I think it was after the Pulse shooting, when the gay nightclub, when they all got shot, that after that, the FBI wanted access to his iPhone to go through all of his messages, see if he was part of ISIS, etc. And Apple refused to comply. But the FBI ended up cracking it in the end anyway. But the only reason that was so public, the only reason Apple refused to do it is because it's in the public eye. They actually comply with, on average, I think it's 3,000 to 4,000 subpoenas a year. So these companies are all complying with the subpoenas because they have to. And if they actually try to fight against it in court, then they'll almost always lose. So it's a total waste of time. So like it's almost taken for granted. The companies release this information publicly as much as they can. So Google actually has the lowest compliance rate with subpoenas, funnily enough. They have around an 80% compliance rate. So they'll actually go to court over maybe 20% of them. While the rest of the companies like Facebook, Apple, and the other ones, they have like a 95+% rate. Because it's almost not worth going to court, because like you're probably going to lose. But Google do genuinely fight for privacy, like a little bit. But Google fights so that only they have their hands on it. Whereas the other companies are just kind of like, I don't really care. Who cares?
Was the Pulse nightclub one, was that the shooting where they couldn't open the guy's phone? He had a lock on it. Was that the one?
Yeah, so he had a lock on his phone, which prevented the FBI from accessing the information. And then they basically went to Google and took them to court, whereas like, we need you to just open the phone for us. And the Apple refused because it was in the public eye. And then if people found out, if people knew like that they weren't, that their iPhones could get cracked at any time, then they would buy them. But then the FBI cracked it in the end anyway, so the court case is dropped because they actually found a way into it.
Yeah, I would imagine that's like hacker 101. Can't they get into any phone?
See, funnily enough, like when it comes to Apple, they're a little more difficult. When it comes to say the NSA and stuff like that, they have like backdoors into virtually every device on the planet. But with the FBI, not so much. Like they have to go through typical means, and especially for really public cases like this, they have to go through even more conventional means. So it's when it comes to say like Windows computers and stuff like that, like they're really easy to get. Like that's hacker 101. That would take a couple of days. But with Apple phones, they're much less common. So they're much less common on a global scale. So like there might be so many iPhones, but in terms of on a device by device basis, not so much. Like you have to take into like computers and servers and all that kind of stuff into account, then iPhones only make up like a fraction of how many computers there are on the planet.
Now, what scared me about what you said, it's not like it was all I didn't think, wow, this is shocking that they can get all this information, that they're tracking me. Yeah, I know when I wake up and what started to scare me a while back was when I opened my iPhone and it'll like tell me where I'm going to drop my kids off at school almost. It'll like pop up as a notification. Oh, you are 13 minutes away from this school. That is what I'm like, wow, okay. So they're tracking, they know like my schedule almost.
Yeah, so like to be honest, that's almost useful. Like, and a lot of people would find these kind of stuff really useful. So, for instance, like if you can turn off a lot of these privacy settings, so you can stop like Google Maps and Google Photos and Google YouTube, like you can stop them from collecting your information, but the service sucks after you turn that off. So like it's because if you turn off your YouTube history collection, then the recommended videos are dog shit.
Yeah.
Like then they have no clue what you want. They don't know what you like or want anymore, so they'll just throw random stuff at you to see if you get it. So like there's a level of personalizability from all this. Like it is useful. It's super useful. Like the information is necessary to have a proper user experience. It's just, it's like the level they go to just seems a little bit unnecessary.
It seems like a hell of a lot of information to store. And then, but when they need to dial it up, like let's say the common thing people will say, well, they can track, they don't care. I have nothing to hide. I don't care if they have all of my information. What do you say when people tell you that?
Oh yeah, man! Publish your porn browsing history. Let's see if let's see how fucking long that lasts.
Or your weird emails you sent when you were a teenager to different girls or something.
It's total bullshit. Like it's projecting. Like no one. If that was the case, then I employ every single person who says this to go on and publish their email passwords, their Facebook passwords, their Twitter passwords, and see how long they care for. Everybody has something to hide. That's the reason we don't have cameras or microphones in our homes. Like that's why we never let the government put that kind of stuff in. It's because we do have a right to privacy and dignity. We don't want people to know our shit. Like, I mean, like if an employer found out, like 95% of America's porn browsing history, like there'd be no employees left. Like they'd be all gone. Like that's how I always go into porn because I feel like that's what shocks people. They're like, for everything else, like whatever. You're just talking to your mom about cooking like a meatloaf. Like then no one gives a shit. But if it's your porn history, oh God, no one wants anyone to know about that. That's where it kind of gets really tricky for people.
Can you think of any specific examples of a case or something that's public that we know of where all of this information was put out there? Say someone's on trial or something?
No, I don't think that. I think it's the Fourth Amendment in America where you basically can't. No, the Fifth. Sorry, it's the Fifth Amendment where you can't be a witness against yourself. So like the government can't mandate that you give up all of your browsing history or anything like that to prove that you're innocent or guilty. So I can't think of any public cases where that happens because this tends to happen in private cases. Because if that gets out, then Google and Facebook and all them, their stock will just plummet because then people don't want to use that if they know that it can be used in a court of law against them. That's very dystopian. So I can't really think of any off the top of my head. There's been loads of cases where people have taken Facebook to court over their nudes, for instance, being spread over Facebook and stuff like that. So that's the only kind of case I can really think of. Like,
did they put them out though? Are these people that put their naked pictures themselves? They posted them and then they got mad that Facebook.
No, it's when they send them to like a boyfriend or something like that on Facebook Messenger, and then he'll post it on Facebook in general. Like it's stupid things like that. But I can't think of any public case where this happens because the subpoenas for Google and Facebook's information happens in the private courts. So that's stuff like terrorism and kind of really, really dark things like that where that tends to happen. In terms of a broader case, not so much. I was contacted by loads of people who for instance, I got contacted by a sexual assault lawyer who basically defended people who were being prosecuted for sexual assault. And then she wanted to know how to access all of these people's location search browsing history to prove that they were innocent. Which could be pretty useful. Like it's a good case for people where they can go like, if they were being prosecuted for murder, they can go like, well, no, look at my Google Maps location. I wasn't there at that time, so I couldn't possibly have done it. So that there's a few positive uses for that. The only problem I'm diverting here, just tell me when to stop. But the only problem with that kind of stuff is like if someone has your phone, they can just flick it on and then it logs your location. So I think that's why they don't use it, because this stuff's really easy to like falsify. So like, if you wanted to prove like you weren't a part of ISIS, then you could just get your friend to Google on your phone that, Muhammad is not real. Something stupid like that. Like that would immediately make you innocent almost. They'd be like, well, that person couldn't possibly join ISIS. That kind of thing. It would be really tricky territory.
What about in the future? Where do you see this going? I feel like with all this stored data, it's going to be used there'll be some good that comes from it, but I feel like I don't know. First thing that pops into my head, I don't know how anybody gets away with a crime now. Like we know you can watch any murder show on TV, if they're like some documentary type thing, they're going to ping the dude's phone like, okay, here are cell phone records that they will provide in court. and the prosecution can show, oh, he was here at the scene where the body was found. We saw him go here, 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 and here. That's what it's used for now. So I always wonder, how does anyone get away with any crime when they can ping everything?
Well, see, the thing is, it's that's really up for you to provide. So like it's like the government can't mandate that. That's the Fifth Amendment. Like, yeah, the government they can't mandate you give your information. But because Google's not operating as like a legal extension of the government, they're just a private corporation, then they can be subpoenaed to get the information. So you or me have no obligation. That's, pleading the fifth, like the being like you don't have to speak. That's essentially what it is. Like you don't have to give your own information to prove you're innocent or guilty. That's for the court to decide, and that's when they can get the information from Google or Facebook. So in terms of the future, what I'll always say is that what scares me the most is that I don't know. So like I said, I can't actually predict anything that's going to happen. So the world's drastically changing pretty much every 5 years. I mean, 10 years ago we didn't even have smartphones. We had like little Nokia piece of shit or like Blackberries. And now we're glued to them. It's changed the world in 10 years. Like the world's changed more in the last 150 years than it changed in the preceding 2 million. So like that's a terrifying thought, like especially because these are private corporations holding on to the data, and God knows what's going to happen in the future. Like, could anyone have predicted 4 years ago that Donald Trump was going to be president? Can anyone in the world say for a full-blown fact they placed a bet 4 years ago Donald Trump be president? That just shows how crazy the world can get. Like the world can just change like that. Like in China, for instance, they have their own alternatives like Google and Facebook and that kind of stuff, and the government actually controls it. And now there's a weird thing going on with China where they use facial recognition on cameras on your phones. So say if you were jaywalking, your phone would capture a picture of your face and then send you a text message saying that you're about to be fined. That was just published in The Guardian a couple of days ago. It's insanity. It's like they have facial recognition on all the cameras. I don't know how people get away with crimes over there. Like, that's where it's insane. That's where I don't understand how people are getting away with crimes. And they're not, because they're completely controlled by the government pretty much.
Well, it's like the old saying where people always talk about, oh, they're going to implant chips in us in the future and they're going to be able to track our movements and know our thoughts and everything. No, they don't have to. We already carry them around freely on our own.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like, we've done all the work for them. And, like, it's not to be, like, totally conspiracy theorist because, like, no one's forced us to do it. Like, this is totally our choice. And, realistically, like, phones do make our lives completely easier and better in so many different ways. But there's a drawback or a consequence of everything, and we're just kind of realizing the consequences just about now.
So you're in Ireland. What's it like in Ireland compared to here with, I guess, privacy and everything? Is it similar?
Well, because we use mostly American products, like it's not really a big thing over here. No, like the government, it's Ireland. Like things are so chill. Like there's honestly like nothing happens here. Like there's never any crime really. And if there's a murder in Ireland, it's a big fucking deal. Like it's proper. Like, oh my God, someone got killed here. Really? So yeah. So like, and then the only controversial thing that happens is that Google has their income base here. So Ireland has a notoriously low corporate tax rate. So America has reduced from 40% to 25%. That just happened in the new tax bill. But Ireland has had a corporate tax rate of 12.5% for the last 20 years. And that's why we've taken off. That's why we've taken off like technologically. We have so many tech companies here is because they can come here and then just funnel all their income through that, and they pay almost no corporate tax rate. But they don't actually do their operational stuff here. So like everything's still done in America. I haven't actually heard of any cases in terms of Google or Facebook privacy stuff in Ireland. It just doesn't happen here. People just don't give a shit. Like they just really don't care.
How do companies do that? How do they get away with stashing billions of dollars over there because the tax rate is much lower?
One of the biggest problems is that they can't use it. So that's like, for instance, like Apple. Apple has its income being drawn in through Ireland, but they can't bring it back into the US, so they can't pay back their shareholders. So like that money is literally just stored offshore. Like it's not able to be used. They just don't want to bring it into America because the second it gets brought back into America, it gets blown through the corporate tax rate. So that's why the corporate tax rate being lowered was such a big deal, because now it meant all these companies storing money offshore could finally bring back the money and pay back shareholders and CEOs and bonuses and stuff like that. So they don't really get away with it in that kind of sense. Like the money's not able to be used; it's just stored. Like it's just there, it's just waiting.
So what's the end? What's the end game for these companies that may have $1 billion sitting in Ireland?
Oh man, it's way more than $1 billion. It'd be like 100 billion. Okay. But like it's they're mostly waiting for the tax rate to go down in America, pretty much. Like the corporate tax rate that corporate tax rate in America should have come down a long time ago, because they were losing so much money offshore because of this. That's why companies go to so many legal loopholes to get the money offshore, because 40% to 25% doesn't seem like that big a drop. But when it gets into but when it gets up to like the multi billions, then it's a big thing. Then it's like 10 to 20 billion in the difference. So they really just don't want to pay the government. They just don't want to give them the money. That's just it. Like they rather just keep it offshore and wait rather than throw it your way.
So I saw a piece on Vice that they did a while back, and they talked about how easy it was to track you on your phone, and how the scary thing for me still is when they can access your microphone and your camera in your phone. And now we have front-facing, rear-facing cameras on iPhones. We have for a while now. How do they go in there and just at any time pull up your camera and watch you and you wouldn't even know?
Yeah, well, that's notorious from the NSA. Like they're notorious for doing that. It was known like that back in 2011. There was a program called the Prism Program, which is done by the NSA, where they got backdoors into all of these applications and software. So like Apple.
Did they do this? So Apple builds their phones, does everything, and then the NSA and the government goes in and they have their people dig in and find these backdoors to dial in. So does Apple have any awareness of it?
They work directly with the NSA to make these backdoors.
Okay.
So it's the NSA basically go, we'll fuck you up if you don't do what we say. Because the NSA has so much manpower where they could do it anyway, but it's just easier if the companies comply. But in terms of apps being able to do that, that's strictly like a permissions issue. So I did an article in The Guardian about this topic about 4 days ago. And what I ran through was there's no evidence to suggest that apps are doing these kind of things, but here's what they can do. And they can take front and rear pictures of you at any time. They can upload the pictures and videos without telling you. They can do it immediately. They can stream you. They can do facial recognition on your videos and pictures while streaming online, pretty much. So all these apps can all do that. It's just that we don't know if they do. And I also posted a really interesting documentary called Find My Phone, where this Dutch filmmaker planted some software on the phone, and that gave him full access to the phone, and he let the phone get stolen. And then when the guy stole the phone, your man just basically pulled up a program and had access to everything the guy was doing on the stolen phone. So he caught him masturbating to some porn at one stage with like, they literally had the picture of him doing it on one side, and then they had what he was viewing on the right. So then I went into a couple of other things where they had all his phone text messages, his call records, like how much data he was even expending on all of these. And what's funny is that they were reading his text messages. I felt really bad for him, and they were using his data to like upload the pictures and videos. And the dude was I think he was a Syrian immigrant or something like that. So they felt bad for him, and they gave him some extra credit. They basically topped up his phone with some extra credit because they kept using the data to upload the pictures. And then he figured it out because he woke up one morning and someone was after topping up his phone, so he freaked out and just dumped the phone basically. But that's the power of those kind of apps and what they can do at any time without telling you.
Does it say this in the terms and conditions somewhere?
No, well, not explicitly. So like it's never they'll never say something outright explicitly. So my source for the information that apps can do these kind of things with your camera and microphone is Felix Kraus, who's a Google engineer, and he just published that he published last year that apps can do this. There's no evidence that it's happening. It's just that they can. And in terms of it being in terms and conditions, I don't think so. Not to my knowledge. That's just maybe it probably is, to be honest. But it's probably some legal gibberish sort of way.
Is that guy still with Google?
Yeah.
So Google doesn't mind that he puts that out there?
See, what he did was he said that this was purely iOS. So he didn't specify that Google had anything to do with it. So if anything, it was almost like it was kind of pro Google because he was specifying it about iOS. So he didn't mention Android or Google at all. But I'm not a member of Google or Apple, and I can say that it does in fact happen on Google too. So it's not there's no platform exclusivity. It's just if you're using a phone, they can do this kind of shit.
So what's going on right now with Mark Zuckerberg? What exactly was Facebook doing?
So I actually haven't really had a chance the last 2 weeks to read into it too deeply, but I've had to summarize it. Facebook the Cambridge Analytica had this app that collected user information, and apps sign up under these kind of terms and conditions where they can't use the information for the wrong purposes, essentially.
It's pretty vague if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. But they Cambridge Analytica essentially just harvested like 50 million users' Facebook data, and then Donald Trump, his campaign hired this company to start doing some data analytics and some Facebook analytics, and then figure out their ad campaigns. So, but this information was harvested from Facebook inappropriately. So it's actually against Facebook's terms and conditions. But Facebook had no hard ways of stopping them. So Cambridge Analytica could just do it freely. And what's so shocking about it is that this had an effect on the US election. So someone being able to inappropriately access Facebook information literally had a knock-on effect of the entire US election, which kind of, it makes democracy look a little bit weaker, where it can be so easily manipulated by online advertising. But it actually came out that Cambridge Analytica did not get access to 50 million. They had access to 89 million users' Facebook information. And this was in-depth information, it would be their location, their interests, their gender, their age, all that kind of stuff, their career. So it was all the really useful stuff for advertising. And 89 million is, around half the voting population of the US, I think. So that's a staggering effect on the entire election, and it does shine a bad light on Facebook.
Now they're saying that's what collusion, because they have all this information. Wouldn't Cambridge say, well, no, that's what we use to directly advertise to the people that may be on the fence?
Yeah, well, that's essentially what they're saying. But advertising to people on the fence are the people who swing. And the thing is, say, I'm not pro Hillary Clinton or pro Donald Trump, but Hillary Clinton did not have access to that kind of information, because this was exclusive to Cambridge Analytica. They are the ones who had all that information, and Donald Trump's campaign worked with them. So that's kind of an unfair advantage, because Cambridge Analytica had access to information where they shouldn't have. So what they did wasn't illegal. They didn't do anything illegal. They violated Facebook's terms and conditions. But Facebook did nothing to stop it. They just let it happen. So that's
Zuckerberg is in trouble because this breach happened and he's the boss, or so he didn't sell anything. He didn't sell any information to any companies.
No, what Mark Zuckerberg's in trouble for is a big irresponsibility towards this kind of information, because Facebook and Google, it's not entirely a monopoly, but it's very close to that, and they should be incredibly careful with this kind of information, because it can influence a US election. So Mark Zuckerberg's he hasn't done anything illegal, but he's also the representative of Facebook, and he's the one who does the overall direction and policy of Facebook. So that's why he's in trouble. He's in trouble literally because he did nothing to stop it. That was the direction the company was going in. That's his fault.
My question is, when was he made aware of this breach?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
That's a big, if he knew about it, but he tried to keep it quiet, then I think it's even a bigger deal.
Oh yeah, they're notorious. I'm not going to speak really on that, because I don't know. I can only guess. But Facebook has a really bad history of going around their own data collection to stop their executives from getting caught. So for instance, if you delete a Facebook message, that's still kept by Facebook. But if you're an executive and you delete a Facebook message, then it's actually deleted. So Google actually has a special executive status for Facebook profiles of executives in the company. And if they delete a message, it's deleted. So they can use Facebook without worrying. If you delete emails and you're a business, and say the FBI subpoenas you and you delete emails after they subpoena you, then you are liable for trying to hinder the law. I can't remember what it's called. But with Facebook, what they were doing was, after they got subpoenaed, they would delete Facebook messages from the executives at the software level, so that they couldn't be prosecuted, because the executives didn't go in and delete it themselves. The system would do it automatically, after a day or a week. So Facebook are notorious for doing this kind of stuff, where they'll do anything to get around their executives being caught. So I have no doubt that Mark Zuckerberg probably had an inkling that 89 million users' Facebook information was stolen. But, I can't say that for certain.
What about, have you heard of any Google executives that have a similar setup?
No. The thing about Google is they keep all their advertising information in-house. So they do not actually sell information to advertisers. What they do is they sell space on they sell advertising space to advertisers where they can use Google's infrastructure. So, if you're a company and you want to advertise on Google, you don't get direct access to the information. What you get access to is the infrastructure where you can go like, okay, I want to sell Facebook ads to, say, 25-year-old males interested in fitness. And you could do that. But they don't sell it to you. Like, you just get to use their platform. But with Facebook, if you have apps connected to Facebook, they actually get your information and get to harvest it. So Google can't really be in the same situation Facebook's in, because they don't sell information full stop. They just sell access to it.
Now, where is all this information stored? Like, where are these servers?
Well, there's hundreds of servers all around the world. They're big. They're called like data centers. So they're just these big warehouses full of little computers basically storing all the information. So I think I did an estimate last week where Google was storing 3.2 exabytes of information about users around the world. And for context, that's about 3% of the world's online storage. So all of the storage in the world, every single hard drive, every fucking CD drive, all of that stuff, all the cloud services, iCloud, etc., all of them combined, Google stores 3% of that information just with Google users, just that alone. That's how much they actually store. And then Facebook would do a similar thing. It's probably around 1 to 2%, I'd imagine. What
about Apple? Like, where does Apple fall with all of this stuff? Have they caught any heat? Are they how are they doing? Because they've turned us all into, I'm a full go Apple guy using an iMac, and I can't imagine shifting and going over to a Samsung Galaxy or something, because all of my music, the podcasts I listen to, everything is right here. They got me hooked. There's no way I'm leaving.
The thing about Apple is they remain notoriously private, so they don't reveal anything about what's going on. So I have no clue. Like, I actually have no clue. Look, if they probably do collect all the same kind of information, but they don't disclose any of it, I imagine. So I couldn't tell you. Like, I've never read anything about it. They don't let you access the archives like Google and Facebook do. So Apple probably would collect the information, like with stuff like Siri and your iCloud and stuff like that. They have to collect this kind of information. But Google or Apple just remain completely private. They don't talk about anything. They don't even have like a Twitter account. Like, they have a Twitter account, but they don't post on it. And they have a Facebook account with like 4 pictures on it. They don't touch social media. They make their products and sell them. They don't talk to people. They don't get customer feedback. They don't give a shit what people think. They literally don't, and it works. Like, they just don't care.
Yeah,
they don't need to talk about it.
They're big enough to do that. But recently with the Facebook deal, I know a lot of big time guys, even investors in Facebook, came out and they said, they tweeted out that they were dropping their Facebook account.
Yeah, so like the thing about Apple is that they're not information based, so they have no card to play in this game. But with Facebook and Google, their entire business is centered around information. So they need their entire business model is just based on perception. So if you don't think you can trust Facebook or Google, then you're not going to use it. And my biggest problem with the, say, like hashtag delete Facebook trend is that I feel like people just see it and then they go like, oh, God, what a dick. Like, they just don't care. Like, they look at that and be like, well, people say that every 6 months or so. Like, everyone tells you to delete Facebook because it's not good for your brain, which it isn't. Like, you don't really talk to your friends or family on it. All you see is bullshit ads and videos and memes. Like, no one likes it anymore. People continue to use it. So like something like hashtag delete Facebook is not going to catch on. Everyone already knows. It's like eating pizza. Like, everyone knows it's bad for them, but they just keep doing it anyway. It's like, so if you go out and tell people like you're going to get a heart attack if you keep eating pizza, then they're just going to be like, yeah, but I like pizza. So like, I feel like my biggest angle is similar to I try to get raised like more kind of self-awareness and kind of like more critical thinking about it. So I'm trying to think, I want people just to make like a conscious decision of awareness of like what could happen with your information and what's being stored. And then like whatever people decide from then on, that's their personal decision. Like that, at least they're made aware, at least they know. It's like, if you don't, it's say with the what could I compare it to? With the food pyramid being redacted. Remember when the carbs got redacted?
Yeah.
You know, all that shit happened. Like I'm doing like a similar vein where I'm just trying to make people aware that, like, look, what you think is probably wrong, and now you can make a conscious decision. And now people are going on like keto diets and stuff like that once they realize that carbs are actually bad for them. They're not like the essential good. So I'm just doing a very similar vein where I'm like, look, here's a couple of alternatives, but you can make a conscious decision for yourself.
What's your background? How did you get into all this?
Well, I'm 23 and I was a web developer up until about 2 weeks ago.
So what, you're building websites and stuff for companies or what?
Yeah, man. I just did like enterprise web development, which is a fancy way of saying I just kind of fucked around, and I just made websites. I had a friend who I used to do a lot of darknet stuff with, so I'd go on and just we didn't actually do anything like nefarious. We would just go on and just be curious, and then we try and hide our identity from people, like just see if we could do it. So
like on what, like 4chan or what?
No, so 4chan is not the darknet. That's freely available. Darknet is stuff like, do you ever hear of the Silk Road?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I read the book on that guy. Man, that's a scary situation.
Oh yeah, ridiculous. But the thing is, that stuff's fascinating, and you access the darknet is just essentially like the hidden internet. So you can't just search for it. You can't just go off and like look for it. You have to go and access it through something called Tor, and that it's essentially all like the hidden websites of the internet, and it has stuff like drug markets, hitmen for sale, hacking forums, just stuff like that. There's obviously the more grim stuff like child porn and stuff like that, but that's relatively easy to avoid. So you just don't go into that territory. They kind of those weirdos, they keep to themselves. But then there's a wealth of fascinating things to do. Like if you go on drug markets, you can just see really interesting stuff. Like I'm doing a piece in the Guardian now in a couple of weeks where I talk about darknet innovation, because I think because the darknet is like the Wild West of the internet, where pretty much anything goes. Like you will never, like, you don't have to comply with any laws or regulations. It's like a conservative dream in America where there's just nothing. Like there's no corporate tax, there's nothing. Like you just get your money, you do weird shit. But sorry, that derailed. But I used to just go on with him and just do kind of like privacy investigations and just figure out, could we hide our identity? But like I have no serious background in this kind of stuff. Like I'm not like the Moses of this. Like I'm just like a random dude. Like I know a lot about it, but I'm not the CEO of a major social media company with an in-depth knowledge of how everything works. I'm just fairly knowledgeable and just, I think, just sensible online more than anything. But I think that does seem to reflect to people a lot, because being sensible online is clearly an asset that a lot of people don't actually have, but it's relatively easy to have.
Did you make any mistakes when you were a young kid? So you're only 23 now. When were you on Facebook and Instagram and everything when you were younger?
So I got Facebook when I got my first computer when I was around 12. And I had Facebook by the time I was 15. And then I was in social media by like 17, 18. So, you know what? Look, I probably have made mistakes. Nothing's come back to bite me yet. So
do you worry about that? That's like such a thing that happens now when a lot of times someone does something good. Say they win a golf tournament, or they're the star of some game. All of a sudden, instantly, people go back in their Twitter history 7 years and find some racist tweet they had, or some dick pic they sent out to somebody, and they put it up there, and the dude's life is ruined.
Yeah, I know. I actually used to be really into dark humor, so like I'd say my initial, oh my god, I just realized I really should delete that. But I had probably a load of black humor kind of back when I was like 15, 16. I was 15, 16, like that's what they're all like. That's what you do, like you're just being funny. But yeah, that's probably the biggest worry about from people now, is that all this stuff is stored and it could definitely come back to bite them. I mean, like, yeah, you like you said, look, we've all read the stories of people who get like a little bit famous, and then one of their first tweets would have like the N-word or something like that. Like it would be something really, something that just does not fly well with the general public, and it will ruin your life if it happens, especially if you're white. It's even worse. But like, it's just like, it's a difficult road to walk, like.
I mean, I can't imagine. That's why I'm glad I'm 34 right now, and I didn't grow up with Twitter. I never really used Facebook in college. I think I got my account in college. I barely ever use it now. I don't go on there daily. It was never my thing. But I mean, I use Twitter. But I wonder now, little kids. That's the other thing. I have 4 little kids too, and you have to teach people like, hey, whatever you put out there, it's there forever. That's got to be. Don't people? I guess in the moment they don't realize that, but deep down, everyone knows if they post something that it can come back. It's never. It's never completely deleted.
No, I've actually received messages from people who would go into their children's rooms and like turn off the locations on all their phones and all that kind of stuff, or sit them down and be like, okay, like you really gotta talk now. Especially the way teenagers are interacting nowadays. So like Snapchat's like the biggest like nude sending app in the world, essentially. And
Snapchat actually changed. Didn't Snapchat change? It originally started where it would delete it, or it would go away in 24 hours or whatever. But now Snapchat, I feel like, is morphed into everything is screenshot. I don't know. And Snapchat also, I hear, is dying a bit too.
Yeah, Snapchat's completely stagnated because they did what a lot of SaaS companies do. That's software as a service, which is they offer a free, really cool service with no ads or anything to get the initial user base. So the Uber does a similar thing where Uber has been losing money for roughly 3 years now, and they're doing that to get the user base, and then they'll jack the prices up. Snapchat did a similar thing where they got the user base and then they smashed ads into it, and that just did not resonate with people. Now Snapchat's losing money, they're losing users. But in terms of the change they made, yeah, like there's actually apps that you can get to screenshot Snapchats without telling the other user. So like there's so many ways around that, and that stuff can be kept forever. Then sometimes that I'm doing a little bit of investigating. I can't say this confidently now, but Snapchat does keep records of a lot of your Snapchats as well. So
oh yeah, you gotta know. I mean, I understand. Kids thought, oh, it's so cool, it goes away. They're gonna send nudes back and forth. I'm like, no, it's not ever truly going away. And you don't know who's behind. Before those apps came out, you don't know who their phone is. Someone's taking a picture of their phone too.
Yeah, totally. Like that, just don't do that. Just don't send nudes, man.
Obviously.
Like, just don't fuck.
Keep your face. I tell people, keep your face out of it, man. It's not my thing. I've never done it, but I'm like, why would you put your face in a picture of you naked?
Yeah, I never done it either, but that's more of a girl. I don't think, because dudes are ugly. Like
that's
like
your deal though. 23, you're right in that prime where it's currency to you guys, sending nudes back and forth.
Well, funnily enough, like I'm in Ireland, so things are a little more conservative in that kind of area. Like people would. It's rare, at least. Like if it does happen, it's quite rare. But I know in America, it's a big fucking deal. Like that's practically what they do on a daily interaction. Is just send a picture of their dick. But I do know girls like who just get casual pictures from guys of their dicks, just out of nowhere. Like just here's a dick pic. There you go. It's like, man, why? But no, it's crazy.
Have you ever heard of the email? There's a company or an app that Mark Cuban, the billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks, he started. That's like do you know what that is?
No. Well, give me a loose rundown what it is, man, and I might be able to.
It's like a texting app and email where it's not stored on servers, he claims, and this came out, at least 5 years ago. I can't think of I'll think of the name of it eventually, but it was basically how he could communicate, and even he was subpoenaed. He had to go in front of a grand jury or something, and because his communications were over this, I think he dodged some bullets maybe.
No, I'd never heard of it. Can I look it up really quick? Just
look it up, man.
I might know the name of it. So who was it? It was
Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban. He actually retweeted me on my thread, and I was like, oh,
really? Yeah, he's really big into
because
he's been sued obviously and everything, but he's big into privacy. I know that.
Oh, Dust. Yeah, I've heard of Dust before. Yeah, so in terms of that stuff, like, there's no real need to use those kinds of apps because you're operating on trust. So you're operating on the fact that they are actually storing that information. It's that they're not actually storing the information. But for instance, what people should always focus on is encryption. So like you need to know that your message was encrypted, because then it doesn't matter. So say for instance, for WhatsApp. So for an almost full-blown fact that no one can access that information. Like not even WhatsApp can. WhatsApp can't access that because it's encrypted one way. So like it's only you and the other person that can actually read the message. It's in code speak for anyone else who looks at it. So even if WhatsApp kept the messages on their servers, no one could read it. Like that, there's simply no way. So that's something that you can trust. But then with something like that, with Dust, I don't know anything about what they do, so I don't.
As far as WhatsApp, what all can you do using WhatsApp? Is that email, text, everything, or what?
No, it's just text messages. So if you do, actually, is it? It might be. I think it's just text messages, and then yeah, it would be pictures and stuff like that as well. But thing is, like, then it's still stored on someone else's phone. So if you delete it, it'd still be on theirs. Although I think they introduced a delete for everyone option now. So it's basically like redacting something. So like you can just delete it and then either side can't see it, but they can still save the picture and stuff like that. Just don't fucking don't send nudes online, man. Just don't do it. Like it's not gonna end well. There's so many nudes on the internet, like millions and millions and millions. Like, and where do people think they came from? Like,
well, it continues to happen. What is it called? The fappening, where these celebs get hacked.
Yeah,
Did this all change with when iCloud came out?
Yeah, there was an issue. The reason this was so big was that when you use iCloud and you take a picture on your phone, it's automatically stored in the cloud. So someone doesn't actually need to get access to your physical device. They need access just to your account. So that's why that was such a global hacking. It's just because if someone got access to your password, they could get into your pictures. Whereas before, someone would actually need to physically have your phone and then send the pictures to themselves, essentially. Or they'd have to like implant a virus onto your phone, which is really complex and that kind of stuff. So that's why it got so big and so many celebrities got hit like all at once, is because there was like an iCloud exploit and people just got rammed. And like no one gives a shit about nudes in general unless they're like a celebrities, and then it's a big deal. Then that's genuinely life destroying.
That's why I feel like it's going to continue to happen as long as you are signed up for iCloud.
Yeah, pretty much. Now look, Apple have shored up their security apparently, but yet these pictures and videos still seem to get leaked. So it's, I don't know. Like all I can tell people is that like just don't trust anything online with that kind of stuff. Like whatever about messages, whatever about search history or browsing history, that's whatever. But pictures with your face on it is just so incriminating, and it's just never going to go away. But at least with messages, or at least with search history and stuff like that, that's contextual. So like, say, for instance, if you're in America and you're looking up ISIS, you can say, oh yeah, well, I was doing it for research. But if you send a nude picture, there's no contextual information. It's just, yeah, you just said your dick. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier about cameras. We won't like cameras in our house and microphones, but now we are though with Alexa. And I know Nest, the doorbell company, sold to Amazon for over $1 billion recently. And don't you think that is now we're going to in Nest cams? You have them, you can look them up on your phone, but obviously someone else can dial right into that feed too.
Yeah. So the problem with Nest is Amazon is just trying to get to virtually every aspect of your life. Like they want to be in everything. So they want you to use the Echo in your house, and then they want you to use they want you to use Alexa to order your food shopping, and then that food shopping will go through Amazon, and then you'll have to use Nest to let the person delivering the food into your house, and then they have a camera in your house, and they have your Amazon Fire TV, and then you're going into just then you're watching Amazon TV shows like the new the American Top Gear. What's that called now? The Great Grand Escape.
I don't know.
Something like that. Whatever it is, like Amazon TV shows. They're just trying to get to every single aspect of your life, and that's not for nefarious purposes. That's just because they want to have an all-encompassing Amazon experience, very similar to what Google does, where they just want to be in everything. They want to be your email, your pictures, your workouts, your YouTube videos, etc. They want to be in every single aspect, and then they could just get a big advertising identity and then use that to sell you products, essentially.
Yeah, it makes sense that, of course, they want all that information. They're gonna become even bigger when they know everything about everybody. But they don't need that information. They don't care, I guess, to use it for the wrong purpose. But the problem is, once you have all that, once it's out there, there's gonna be people that are always gonna try to break into it and find that information.
Yeah, I mean, say with the Under Armour MyFitnessPal, like that got hacked less than a week ago, and no one gave a shit. There was 150 million users' information stolen. You know, that's all. I know it's stupid, but like it was like their email, their nutritional advice, their passwords.
That's huge. Like as far as like email lists, people can make huge money selling email lists off.
Yeah, exactly. Those email lists are super, super valuable. And then you also know for a fact, say you sold that 150 million email list, you know, people are using MyFitnessPal, they're more likely to be fitness orientated. And then you can gear fitness products and nutrition towards them. So that's massively valuable. That's worth an absolute fortune. And no one cared. It's like, well, it's only MyFitnessPal. Like, it's just my pizza.
There's no pictures. You're right, man. No pictures.
No pictures. Yeah, no news. No one cares.
No text from a celebrity about how they hate this person, or like the North Korean deal back in, was it Sony Pictures that got hacked supposedly?
Oh,
with
I
the
don't remember
movie.
that.
It was the James Franco movie with Seth Rogen
Oh, yeah.
about North Korea, and some emails got hacked to where from Sony execs to different actors going back and forth, and they got upset. People got upset because they were negotiating like contracts on there, and so they saw, oh, Seth Rogen got 10 million, but this dude only got 2 million, and people are pissed.
Yeah. You see that a lot with you'll see salaries get leaked for new movies, and then there'll be like a gender pay gap then with the men and the women having different pay and stuff like that. So unless something provokes people on like a personal level, like if my fitness pal, this is just pure stupid idea, but like if my fitness pal had like a record of people's abortions, oh my God, people would care. Holy shit, that would be all over the place. Because that's a deeply personal issue where like your nutrition, no one cares. Like that's who gives a fuck. So like, yeah, you have to provoke people on a personal level in order for them to actually care. Because then they can look at themselves and be like, oh my God, they know this about me. And that's scary.
So, but where do we go? Are we going to get to a point to where there is no privacy and people don't care about it because from a young age you grow up and you just know this is life and they don't know any other way?
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult one because technological innovation relies on this kind of information. So, for instance, for the development of AI, everyone's saying AI is the future and that's where things are going to go. But AI needs massive, massive quantities of data. So that's how they're made. Is they use evolutionary steps. So they'll get all of this information and then just run down through it over months or years, and then they'll just evolve better and better forms using that information. That's why when you get the Amazon Echo or the Google Home and all that kind of stuff, that's why it's so cheap, is because they're harvesting all that voice controlled information so that they can use that for AI in the future. So they can have, there's like futuristic films with the voice controlled stuff, where it could just literally do everything. That's legitimately what they're building towards, but they need tons and tons of information to be able to make that kind of stuff. So, I think it's a really weird line to walk because, for a lot of our technological innovations, we need this kind of information. Like the companies do actually need it, but then we're sacrificing so much in that phase. So I feel like we're going to go down one of two roads. Either just be totally fuck privacy, where they can just have whatever they want and we'll just live this totally futuristic life, or I'll go down another road where there'll be a massive blowback where people just stop using their phones entirely, because it's already proven that social media massively increases depression and anxiety in young people. So like it's going to go more in those two directions. Either people go like, there's actually too much technology is definitely bad for you, or it'll go in a stage where no, we need more. Like we need to just keep innovating. We need to keep going further. So I honestly don't know. Like I actually just don't know which direction it'll go. I wish I could say.
Nobody knows. That's the thing. No. I think it's tough to predict, and it's easy to say. I could see it in one sense to where people get sick of it. There's finally like a tipping point, and the majority of people go back to like old school burner phones that you buy a burner at the store or whatever, and it's a flip phone, and they don't really have any. You buy it with cash or whatever, like criminals can do at times. You could go back to that, but it's tough to live like that. At some point, you're gonna go back to the technology that you grew up with, that you know.
Yeah, so there's been loads of studies showing the effects of phones on your brain. So when you use a phone and you get a notification, that lights up the dopamine section of your brain. That's the reward you get for like eating cake or like eating a pizza or something like that. It's just your reward center. So when you get a notification, that lights up, and when you don't get a notification, you get senses of withdrawals. So it's like withdrawing from a drug. Like you get kind of anxious and depressed, a little bit cold. You get it's literally a drug. It's like being on meth. So we don't like being away from it. So people, when people take what are they called, retreats, and they go away and it's just nature and they're just like meditating, all that kind of stuff, they'll go on those, and for the first 24 hours they'll get serious withdrawals from their phones, like crazy withdrawals, where they'll just feel super anxious and depressed and like, oh my God, people need me. And I think Joe Rogan actually did that before, and he was saying like, and he's a really famous dude, so people would actually need to talk to him. And I said, but then he came back after like a week, and then it was like, well, actually no, the world didn't fall apart. Things are actually okay. I feel a lot better. So, and then there's also a massive correlation between social media usage and anxiety and depression. So that's what, like, we've seen, like, the world has never been better. It's never, ever, ever, ever been as good as it is right now. Things are so easy for us. We have pretty much infinite food. It's cheap. Most people have a house. Like, most people have a job. Like, and domestic abuse is down, violent crime is down, rape is down, poverty is global poverty has gone down by like 40% in the last 20 years, yet depression, anxiety, and suicide are increasing. So you have to wonder, like, what's the correlation? Like, where does that start? And the biggest start is really just kind of like social media and technological obsessions. That's literally the only correlation.
So what about you? Where do you go from here? What's I don't know. You're such a young kid. I don't know. Where does this all take you?
So I've left my job and I'm now a full-time writer for The Guardian, and I'm doing podcasts, YouTube. Then I'm doing privacy consultations for a few companies. I'm just going in and being like, yeah, nah, if there's going to be public blowback if you do this, but not if you do this. So like I'm just going in. It's like privacy auditing almost. So, like going in and be like,
yeah. What would an example be of that? What kind of company, and who would you speak to?
So I'm doing work with one company called Presearch, and they're like a blockchain kind of alternative to Google. And I'm just speaking with like the CEO. And what we're doing is I'm going in with him and being like, okay, you need to revise these kind of policies. This is not okay. Like people won't like this, or it's not ethical, or it's not moral, or something like that. So I'm just kind of going down through. I can't go into with NDAs. I can't go into too much detail about that kind of stuff. But I can just say like all I'm going to do is going into their policies and their user interface and that kind of stuff, and be like, look, you can get this data, but you just can't take that. Like people won't like it. It's not ethical, and here's a better alternative. Just that kind of stuff.
Have you been contacted by any companies or schools or anything? I could see you going into a company and I guess schooling them up, educating people on better ways to go about how they interact with people online.
Well, I'm meeting with Google actually on April 18th, funnily enough, bringing my lawyer.
You coming to the States?
No, because Google's HQ is actually in Ireland,
oh my
funnily enough.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll be going up to them. It's like the head of the EU branch, although I'm being very open about it because to be honest, they're just going to offer me a job, I imagine, and I'm not going to take it. But like they're going to offer me a job, so it'll be like, look, we'll give you a nice paying job.
Take
because
it.
I don't. No, man, I'm earning more already doing this. Like, so
what if they give you $1 million a year?
Man, my sellout price is 5.
Okay.
I've already said it. It's 5 mil. 5 mil, and I'll shut up.
They have unlimited money. They'll throw it at you if you get enough info.
Look, man, everyone has their price. Like I have integrity, but everyone has their price. Like 5 million, I'll fucking shut up. I don't care.
What would they want you to do? What kind of job you think?
I have no idea. I actually have no idea. There's the GPDR is like a law in the EU where they basically just they're basically just shitting all over Facebook and Google, where it's like, look, you can't do this shit anymore. You have to give explicit consent and do all that kind of stuff. But they also mandate that companies who are controlling information from 250 or more users have to have what's called a data protection officer. So it's basically someone who monitors data. So like, I don't know, it could be something like that, but I'm just not going to take it, like, because I'm working like 4 hours a day on my own time and doing much more fulfilling work than if I was like, I don't want to go back to 40 hours a week, 9 to 5. Life is already good. I'm actually making an impact on people. So much for this.
So I guess we know if all of a sudden after April 18th, we see you writing these like pro Google articles and saying, you know what, they've cleaned up all their mistakes. Everything's great. We know you're getting $6 million a year and you're hanging out at Google.
Oh God, yeah. Like because I will sell out if it's 5 mil. Like, I wouldn't hesitate.
What would a data protection manager? What does that person do?
They basically just review policies, and they'd review code to make sure that people aren't to make sure the company's not collecting inappropriate data, and just make because one of the things GPDR does is it stops the bullshit terms and conditions. So no more 50,000 pages of terms and conditions that just lets the company do what they want with your information. Now they have to ask for explicit consent. So they'll have to go like, okay, you've accepted the terms and conditions, but here's a little notice that you have to click yes to that says we're going to log your location every time you open your phone so that we can better your experience. It'll be stuff like that. No more bullshit terms and conditions. That's the essential stuff. So it'll be a lot of reviewing policies and reviewing code, just that kind of stuff.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, it does.
It's not, especially with what you do now. And I saw you Skyping into Tucker Carlson. Was that a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, that was a week and a half ago. That was weird.
How did they how did they reach out to you?
Well, I went on a few news networks in America, actually. I went on CBSN and Fox News, and then I was on like CBC in Canada and stuff like that. They just emailed me.
Really?
And
you said you're taking your lawyer with you to Google. When have you always had a lawyer on retainer? How's that work?
No, man, I'm 23. Like
that's what I'm saying. You're all of a sudden out there with all this stuff, and people want to talk to you and get to you and get interviews. So you have to put some people around you.
Yeah. So there's this Irish lawyer who just contacted me out of the blue, and was like, because I tweeted that I was going to go up to Google on April 18th. So I'm trying to be kind of open and transparent in that kind of way. And then he contacted me and said, look, I'm a social media lawyer. I've dealt with Facebook, Google and stuff before. I'll do this pro bono. So I'll just go up with you. If it's okay, I'll leave. If not, if there's something more sinister going on, not like assassination or anything like that, it would be like if they want to serve me like a court notice or something like that, then he'd be there to be like, okay, shut up, Dylan, that kind of stuff.
What could they? They couldn't serve you with any kind of court notice.
What they could technically do is, because I went on national news, they could do me for slander of the company with incomplete facts. So say like 99.9% of my stuff is true, but then that 0.1% I got wrong. Because when I tweeted it, I had 600 followers and I tweeted it for fun. I didn't do like a complete, FBI scale investigation. I literally just tweeted like some shit that I thought was interesting. So if they found that 0.1% was false and then I was publicly slandering the company and that had an effect on the stock value, then they could technically serve me notice for that. And I would fucking love if they sued me. That would be the best thing that ever happened to me, because that shit would go global. And then it would and they'd be totally in the wrong. Like, they might win the case, but they'd sue a 23-year-old for tweeting. So like, that would be, I'd love if they did it. I'd absolutely love if they actually tried to sue me. I'd love it. I think it'd be the best thing ever, but I don't think they will.
Where was like the first person, like how did your tweets go viral and all of a sudden I know you have like 50,000 followers already because of it, or after this? I know I saw it trending. When did it start? Like, when did you realize, okay, I guess a lot of people this is getting some traction?
Yeah, so I woke up Sunday morning and I had about 200 retweets, which is, that's kind of standard. I was like, okay. And then I didn't take any notice of it. Like, I just literally went to sleep that night.
That's a lot for 600 followers. 200 retweets is a lot.
Yeah, but it's a lot of work. So I was like, okay, look, that's about 200 retweets worth of work. And then I went to sleep and I woke up Monday morning and I had 1,100. And then I went to work. And then I checked my phone at like 11:30 and I had 8,000 retweets. And then I went on the kind of national Irish radio to talk about it, which scared the shit out of me, man. Like, I'd never been on an interview or podcast or anything in my life. And then I was, I was speaking in prime time to 500,000 people. And they were talking about it, because when they were talking about it, it was kind of viral. So it was like 8,000 retweets. Should be big in Ireland. And then like Tuesday morning, it had gone up to, I think it was like 50,000. And then by Thursday, it was 100,000. And then it was 150,000 by the Sunday. Pretty much in a week, I got about 160,000. And then I got on like dozens of radios and podcasts and shows and done loads of written interviews and written articles for The Guardian and that kind of stuff. And then I quit my job on the Monday. Pretty much just went, fuck it. I was like, look, I'm 23. I'm never going to get a better opportunity than this right now. So I was like, this is like my dream. Like, no one gets this stuff. I'm going to throw myself full into it. So I just quit my job straight away. I went, look, this is the best opportunity of my life. I'm going to throw everything I have into it. And they were like, yeah, go for it. Fair enough. That's
awesome, man. Good luck. We'll be looking forward to it. April 18th. Good luck with Google. Hopefully we hear from you after that day. If not, we know something's up.
Yeah. I'll tweet a picture of my speedboat. if it goes well, I'll tweet a picture of the speedboat.
All right. Well, appreciate it, man. What's your Twitter name again?
So my Twitter is @IamDylan Curran and my YouTube is just Dylan Curran.
Gotcha. All right. Cool, man. Thanks for coming on here. I'm curious to see where this whole path takes you.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
All right. Thanks again, man.
Thanks, AJ. Take care.
We're glad you could join us for today's conversation. After you subscribe to the show, head over to thehawkcast.com or reach out to AJ directly on Twitter @officialAJHawk to recommend future guests that will help us inspire people to keep talking. Thanks again, and we look forward to speaking with you next time on the HawkCast.